then what happens is if you fight the establishment and you win, there is a vacuum. And undoubtedly, some of the other anti-establishmentarians, they have a program. They have a plan.
It's easy.
And they have an ideology, and it's a right-wing one.
So with everyone talking and you know, we got to thank, you know, Mr. Cenk for kind of starting this whole entire conversation. I'm starting to hear more of it. And now, you know, and it kind of sucks when you have all these labels and not everyone's going to have the same understanding, the same agreement when it comes to these labels. Some people think progressive means the crazy left. I don't think so. I think that has its own, you know, set of people. But when it comes to being a populist, and I don't want to say Cenk doesn't know. And if he doesn't, I think that points to a bigger issue. But it seems like he's trying to conflate Republican populism with Democratic populism. And those two things, I mean, just based off the name, like if you just had to do just based off the name, those are two totally different understanding beliefs, you know, and we're going to go through the definition and let me know in the comments if you agree to these definitions and understand why a lot of people like myself don't understand what Cenk is trying to aim at, because when it comes to overlapping understanding, when it comes to Republican and Democratic populism, is very few. It's very few overlaps. And if you do get that overlap, it's not going to change like the direction of government and democracy here in America. It's like, it's not that much of an overlap. So just to kind of get some definitions out the way, because on this channel, yes, we learn something. Or at least we try to, at least. So one of my definitions of Republican populism is Republican populism focuses on nationalism and economic protectionism, distrust governments and cultural elites like the media and academia, and targets global elites as undermining traditional values. Once again, I try to not be as biased because trust me, I could have made that sound a lot worse, but I tried to give it a fair shot right there. But when it comes to Democratic populism emphasizes reducing economic inequalities and promoting social justice, views government as a tool to counter corporate power, and targets wealthy corporations and billionaires as perpetuating inequality. And someone said this, I wish I would have got a name with it, but they said, while both forms of populism claim to represent the people against the elite, which that's what essentially Cenk is trying to accomplish here, that their definitions of who the people are and who the elites are different significantly. Sorry, it's early in the morning, my bad. But I think we need to establish who the people are and who the elite is. And I think that's what a lot of people, you know, like the Mark Lamont Hills, the Francescas, the Bryans, like they're confused because Cenk isn't making a distinguish when he's having these conversations with these Republican talking heads, like who's the people? Because their definition of the people could be different from yours. And who's the elite? Once again, they know Trump chose Elon Musk and other millionaires like Vivek and a lot of these other millionaires within the cabinet. They see that, but they're not pointing that out. So maybe the Republican voters don't understand the Democratic elite are probably just the same as the Republican elite. Maybe. So I think that's one of the confusions that a lot of people have. So let's go ahead and go to one of my favorite channels, The Majority Report with Sam Seder. I've been watching it for at least almost 10 years. You know what I'm saying? Like when I was young, getting into politics, I would literally listen to their podcast every single morning, not missing one. Beautiful thing. But let's take a listen and see their perspective.
Lefty. Speaking of populism, Max Lefty. Sam and Francesca spoke about anti-establishment being problematic when you don't have an ideology. Can you speak about that? Yes. Because in one instance, if you are just merely anti-establishment, really what it is, it's daddy issues. I mean, that's what it breaks down to. And the problem with that is that you can fight the establishment, but then you create a vacuum. And if you do not have an ideology that is behind that anti-establishment, and by ideology, I mean a perspective on what you would do in leadership. Like, what is the programmatic ideological framework in which you would have government? Then what happens is if you fight the establishment and you win, there is a vacuum. And undoubtedly, some of the other anti-establishmentarians, they have a program. They have a plan.
It's easy.
And they have an ideology, and it's a right-wing one.
It's easy to be anti-establishment because if that were the standard, we are. Like, you know, we vote for I voted for Democrats. I encourage people to vote for Kamala Harris.
And she makes a good point. Like, and sometimes these conversations are not as complicated as some would think, even myself, you know, like trying to understand, like, you know, the terms and the definition and some examples when it comes to Trump versus a Bernie and those types of populism perspectives is not really that difficult. So when Cenk says, we populists, need to be against the establishment. Well, that's like 99% of Americans. It's very few that's like, no, I'm for the establishment, which is the 1%, maybe 2% now. But that's too broad of a blanket of a statement or a mission. Be against the establishment. Well, if we get a little bit more specific into the details, into the weeds, then you start to understand maybe some people may not be anti-establishment as you think. Like I said, they know Donald Trump is literally getting paid, or not getting paid, but Elon Musk funded Trump's campaign. But if you tell them that, do you think money in politics kind of skews the politicians' reasons when it comes to, governing their state or their people? 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, yeah, money can influence politicians in a negative way. Well, don't you know Elon Trump money, millions of dollars, their brain will probably like literally melt, and you can see their brains oozing through their ears. Like just connect the dots real simple for them. But once again, Cenk didn't do that, or at least hopefully going forward he does. But that's where he fumbled, at least in my opinion, the easiest touchdown in world history. But let's continue.
And didn't work out. But the point is just like, the establishment isn't working for people in the sense that our administrative state is going to be gutted by the Republicans. We have slashed taxes on the wealthy, and income inequality is through the roof because of neoliberal and right-wing policies. But if you're anti-establishment, what comes next? Ask people that. What is the next sentence? Okay, we overthrow the establishment, we achieve our goals. What do you put in its place? Because then you become the establishment. Once you overthrow the establishment, you are the establishment. Look, then what is the future that you're building? Because for the left, it should be focused on decommodifying the essentials of life, housing, food, healthcare, etc., making sure that we aren't slaughtering people abroad in genocides in Palestine and all that kind of stuff. Making sure, bringing our resources home to our communities. That's our vision. So what is the anti-establishment vision beyond people just saying they're anti-establishment? Because that's just a branding exercise, and not something that serious people are engaging in when they're talking. It's what Jimmy Dore was doing.
That's exactly where that,
And just to add on to her examples, and what I'm going to lay out, one is for my notes for another video, but I think it fits perfectly with this conversation, which I would think the establishment, which Sam Cedar's kind of going to get into more of a broader definition, well, not broader, but more of a more understandable definition of who the elite is. And even I had to like adopt some of that, because I had more of a skewed definition of who the elites are. But these are some of the policies that I think majority of Americans would go for. Republican, Democrats, and anything in between. But it's the elites, Democrat and Republican elites, that's stopping this from progressing. One is taxing the wealthy, Medicare for all, increasing minimum wage, affordable college, if not damn near free, okay? Rent control, obviously mortgage control, corporate money out of politics, Supreme Court term limits, voting as a national holiday, plus, and this is my idea, tell me what you guys think, free identification cards. Everyone wants voting to be more secure and want to show identification. Will make that free. Every American walking the streets, 16 and up, should have an identification card that is free. I don't care where you live, it is free. That's simple. And then rank choice voting and etc. Like, let me know in the comments down below, like your list of things that you would like to see done by a responsible government. But let's continue to where I like the way that Sam Seder kind of laid it out, and I'm always learning some things every day. Let's take a listen.
The news, you should have a pretty good sense of who that is.
Fames Darwin says Bill Fletcher said that the right-wing populism is the herpes of capitalism. He was saying that in the same way that herpes outbreaks happen under stress. Capitalism under stress produces populism. Left-wing populism correctly targets economic elites. Right-wing populism targets elites other than economic ones. Or if it does target economic elites, it focuses on their alien nature and targets them as cultural elites.
That's a great
Thus,
point.
the logical endpoint of right-wing populism is anti-Semitism.
Yep.
I mean, you can see this playing out. The idea that the establishment is that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, billionaires, are not part of the establishment in this country is bizarro.
But Soros is, and why is that? I mean, Tame Darwin, what a great I am. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly it.
And
We should get Bill Fletcher back on.
when you talk about, yeah, we should actually. When you talk about who have been the sort of like talking point targets of the right-wing populism that is arguably ascendant in this country. Is it big moneyed? There's some talk of it in some quarters. You can find it like, maybe specific industries like the social media industries. But why social media industries as opposed to like airline deregulation or oil or energy
equity.
production or private equity? It is because social media is a cultural instrument.
And they're trying to
And they're trying to, wrestle away the smug, elites on the coastal elites. Look, the establishment is not some smug professors at colleges.
Right there.
Despite the fact that they'd have you believe that on the right. The establishment is not those people who want to, give special powers to trans people. The establishment is not immigrants. The establishment is a class of people. It's not just individuals who run certain committees in Congress. The establishment is a class of people who have aligned interests that are basically, we're going to hoard the money.
Yep.
And if you're in the club, and you can get into the club, not easily, but we have an initiation process.
lottery.
Yeah, you can get into the club, but once you get into the club, the rules of the club are, we keep the club exclusive. That way we keep the value of our money and we can hoard the money. That's what it is. There's not like,
and that right there, like when I heard that, I'm like, like my mind is like thinking of particular people, which isn't wrong, but it's a class of people. It's even the people that's not even in politics. You know what I'm saying? It's not just those on a Democratic or Republican, in Congress. Like, these are a class of people, the 1%. And I would even say, like, someone like a Hassan Piker has the option. Like you said, of course, it's going to be like, hey, you need to make sure you're on the same page. But he could easily, once again, I don't know his intentions. I don't know his heart. But he could easily be a part of that elitist class, because I'm pretty sure, 9 times out of 10, he's making money. So therefore, he could easily be in a position to where he wants to keep all of that to himself. He doesn't want it's easy to fall into that mindset. So I myself need to understand that it's not just a Elon Musk or a Vivek. It's a broader sense of people who could be contributing to keeping the system the way it is. So, hey, thank you, Sam. Thank you.
You ask what the establishment is. The establishment is that. It is a class of people. It is not 5 individuals. It is not people who run a political party. They could be the establishment of that party. They could be the ones that have the power within the context of that party. But in terms of like our society, it is an economic class that is hoarding the money, that is socializing the costs and privatizing the profits. And they do so at the detriment necessarily of a huge swath of the public.
Yep. Simple. Beautiful.
Just one quote from one of my favorite leftist writers from about 80 years ago. I've come to the conclusion that it's futile to be anti-fascist while attempting to preserve capitalism. Fascism, after all, is only a development of capitalism, and the mildest democracy, so-called, is liable to turn into fascism when the pinch comes. That's George Orwell.
Damn. Whew. Hey, beautiful.
I mean, that's why Trump changes his position on H-1B visas, is because he's a tool of the money. And if he could still like sort of hoard the money, if he didn't need Elon Musk's billions of dollars to discipline his own party and anybody else, he'd be fine to say to, Stephen Miller, like, you go ahead.
If Tech was loyal to the Democrats, he probably would be more interested in doing that this time around.
Exactly.
But yeah,
Hey,
I mean,
that's bars right there, baby. Hey, guess what? On this channel right here, we learned something. And I want to end with a quote myself. Well, not from me, but this is from Fred Hampton. If you don't know who Fred Hampton is, hey, you're doing yourself a disservice here. If you know who Fred Hampton is, let me know in the comments down below. But one of his quotes that you need some time to think about, okay? He said, "We're not going to fight capitalism with black capitalism. We're going to fight it with socialism. We're not going to fight racism with black racism. We're going to fight it with solidarity." Once again, we need to make sure that we have a clear understanding of who is who and what is what. And then once we can get on the same page, then we can proceed to try to make the changes that we see fit. We need to make sure that we identify and ask the right questions to get the solutions that benefit all of us. And, once again, like Cenk kind of centered himself in the middle of this conversation, I need Cenk to talk to the team. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, talk to your home team and get this ironed out, get this fleshed out, and then we can proceed to speak to, Republicans and MAGA and have that debate or have that conversation. But if we are just saying we're against the elite, and you're not being a little bit more specific of who that is and who the people are, none of that is going to mean anything. What you're saying is going to fall on deaf ears. They're not going to listen, or they're going to think you're talking about what they're thinking the elite is. And that's going to mess up the whole conversation at the end of the day. So Once again, guys, if you agree or even disagree with anything I said in this video, let me know in the comments down below, or hit that Discord button so me and you can have that one-on-one talk. And like always, let's have that conversation.